It is estimated that a human has about 5 million hairs distributed throughout different areas of the body. And hair, well, it has many important functions for the body. Hair provides protection, as hair on the head protects the scalp from sunburn. Nostril hair in the nose traps particles, acting like a filter, protecting the respiratory system. The inner ear has hair that protects against insects and foreign particles entering into the body, and the eyelashes provide protection for the eyes. Another function of hair is facial expression, as the eyebrows can convey someone's emotional state. Heat retention is another function of hair, as hair on the scalp helps to prevent heat loss from the head. You can see this as some football players with shaved heads release a cloud of heat in cold weather games. Hair plays a role in sensory reception, as hair root plexuses can detect light touch, such as when you put on a long-sleeve shirt. Hair also provides visual identification, as you can identify someone you know while standing in back of them by their hair color and hairstyle.
There are over 2,000 species of sea star worldwide. Many of them have the familiar 5 arms, but they can have many more, like this massive metre-wide sunflower starfish. Arranged around a central disc, every limb is identical and contains their vital organs. Their underside is covered in flexible tube feet that they use to move around the seabed and pass food into their mouths. Despite having no brain or bones, sea stars have some amazing superpowers. For a start, they can see with their arms. Each limb has an eye spot that's sensitive to light. In fact, they can lose up to 3/4 of their body and still survive. Some sea stars have taken this one step further. You see, as long as a small portion of the central disc remains, they can completely regenerate from a single arm. A few species reproduce this way, simply splitting in half to make 2 individuals. So could the starfish that appear to be ripping off their own arms actually be creating new life?
In November 2014, biologists announced that they'd found the culprit causing all of this devastation. It was a newly discovered virus, sea star-associated denser virus. I say it's a newly discovered virus, but in fact, subsequent investigation of museum specimens show that it's been knocking around since the 1940s. The trouble is, no one knows why it's causing this horrendous outbreak right now.
Although the disease is killing off many sea stars, it may not be a total disaster.
This past spring and summer, we have seen a big influx of juveniles. This is likely because when many animals are stressed, as a sort of last-ditch effort to keep the population going, they'll reproduce.
We won't know the final impact of this virus for some time, but we can only hope that nature's resilience overcomes this disease.
For the past decade, researchers have discovered more and more about the genetic link behind the disability. One study published in the Journal of Neuroscience found that some dyslexics with the deletion of the DCDC2 gene had trouble detecting certain types of visual movement, while other studies, like one published in the same journal, found a link between a mutation in the ROBO1 gene, which results in certain pathways, like auditory pathways, that link the 2 halves of the brain to be weakened. So while it's described as a learning disability, it can perhaps be more accurately described as a neurological condition. Several studies comparing the brains of dyslexic and non-dyslexic individuals found some striking differences. Like one study published in the journal Biology Psychiatry. In a study of 75 children and 104 adults, researchers analyzed MRI scans to see whole brain connectivity. They found that dyslexic individuals have weaker connections in certain parts of the brain, like visual centers, and in the region between the visual center and the prefrontal region, and in the visual word area. So it seems it's definitely a very visual condition, and this could explain why reading words becomes difficult, but not speaking. And there are some studies that caution to place all the blame on the brain. They see the cause and effect is reversed, that poor reading experiences leads to less gray matter in certain parts of the brain. While many assume dyslexia is primarily difficulty reading, some research suggests the underlying deficit lies with understanding spoken language. One study published in the journal Science found that those with the condition have trouble understanding the differences in the way people talk. In one experiment, the researchers had people with the condition and those without listen to voices. Those voices either spoke the language the participants knew or a foreign one. The participants were then asked to match the voice to an assigned cartoon avatar. Not surprisingly, everyone struggled to recognize the foreign language speakers, but the researchers found that dyslexic individuals also struggled to recognize speakers of their native language.